Did you know that the Bible didn't even actually exist for the first 300 years after Christ died? What did exist, however, was Jesus' church. The earliest Christians didn't follow a book. They followed a living tradition that was passed down directly from the apostles. When Jesus told his followers, "Go and make disciples," he didn't hand them a scroll. He gave them authority. St. Ignatius wrote in 107 AD about bishops, the Eucharist, and he even talked about unity under the Bishop of Rome. And who was St. Ignatius? He was a disciple of John the Apostle. Let's look at one of the earliest Christian documents outside of Scripture, the Didache. This was written sometime between 70 and 100 AD. In it, it describes baptism, the Eucharist, confession. For the first few centuries, Christians used Greek and Hebrew writings that came from what is called the Septuagint. The Septuagint includes books from the Old Testament such as Wisdom, Maccabees, Sirach, Tobit, Judith, and Baruch. Interestingly enough, Jesus quotes the Septuagint over 300 times in the New Testament. The problem is many Christians were disagreeing about which books were divinely inspired and which weren't. So the Catholic Church held what was called the Council of Rome. That was in 382 AD, and that was the very first council that was started to start compiling the Bible as we know it today. Following that was the Council of Hippo, which was in 393, and then the Council of Carthage in 397. These councils listed 46 books in the Old Testament and 27 books in the New Testament. And a 73-book Bible was the Bible that Christians knew for the first 1,500 years of the church. Which brings us to the 1500s, where Martin Luther decided to take some of the books out of the original Bible canon because he felt like they were not divinely inspired. He questioned certain doctrines, such as prayers for the dead or purgatory, which are both clearly listed in the book of Maccabees 1 and 2. Because those books did not fit his theology, he moved them to an appendix labeled Apocrypha, which then led to Protestants soon after that just dropping them altogether. Catholic Bibles still include all 73 books today, and we use a version called the Douay-Rheims, which was translated from the Latin Vulgate in the 4th century. Protestant Bibles, including the translation of the King James Version, relies on Hebrew translations from the Old Testament that were actually put together by Jewish rabbis 900 years after the death of Christ. The reason why the rabbis removed these 7 books from their original Old Testament is because they wanted to distance themselves from Christ. Christianity was rising and spreading more rapidly, and they didn't like that these books were foreshadowing Christ directly. So ironically enough, when Luther rejected the church's biblical canon, he ended up adopting the canon of post-temple Judaism, a canon that was established against early Christianity's use of the Septuagint.